Good morning once again. Today I'm going to start Unit 50, a poem called Life is Fine. You know, everybody asks a question. How are you? Right? What's up? What's going on? So it is similar to the answer of that question. Life is fine. It's okay. Going on. Right? So you can guess from the title also. On the screen, you can see some romantic photos. You almost all of you are teenager, or is the time of marriage. It means you are at bachelor's level. You might have imagined your life, further life. That means maybe love affair, maybe marriage, or maybe other that sort of thing. You can see a pair in different activity, involved in different activities. You can see how do people feel when they are in affair. Today I'm going to talk about the consequences or probable consequences, not always not always true. What would happen, or how do people think when they are in love affair? It's about love, and commonly it is said that without love, life cannot be imagined. That doesn't mean love between a girl and a boy. It means with everybody who are our kith and kins. But here we are talking about only romantic love, a love between a boy and a girl, and its consequences also. You might have heard, most of you are maybe thinking about that sort of partner, love partner, right? You may have, you may not have. You have some sort of thinking, at least. In the next picture, you can see, according to the poem also, this can be girl or a boy. The first picture, what can you see? What is happening there? Maybe that girl is in depression. So one of the consequences of love affair can be detachment or depression. And in the second picture, this is painting, famous painting. One of the girl is with a dagger, knife, and she is going to commit suicide. See the consequences. And in the last picture also, you can see a girl hanging in the ceiling. You can hear nowadays also many such type of suicidal cases in our country and all over the world. Because of this lockdown, many people are in depression because they are devoid of their beloved also, money also, and such type of romantic time, and they have depression, mental illness. So use infatuation or great attachment between a couple and higher expectation can result into some sort of misunderstanding later, because everything whatever is committed, whatever is promised in love affair or in hypothetical life cannot be fulfilled in real life. You have heard that real life, in real life, it is different. Whatever we see on the screen of television or in the film, they are different thing. And whatever we have to face, whatever we find, they are different thing. In love, everything which are even hypothetical also promised, are also promised. That's why that can result into that sort of depression, sadness, and it would result into suicide. So in romantic love, we can define life in different way. Look at here. Life is what happens between coffee and wine. I got this in internet, right? Love affair begins from coffee, going to park. It means visiting cafe and many more other beautiful places. And we make hypothetical promises, hypothetical commitment. And finally, that results into what? That result into some sort of misunderstanding later. Because everything, whatever we do to convenience, to attract other, cannot be fulfilled in real life. It is difficult. That's why also romantically we can define our life as what happens between coffee and wine, coffee and other sort of caffeine like kinds of thing, maybe wine, cigarette, opium, hashish, and many other sort of intoxicating things. So today also we are going to talk about similar type of thing. Let's talk about Langston Hughes, author, American author. Is known as a significant poet of Harlem Renaissance, an African American artistic movement in the 1920s that celebrated Black life and culture. So somehow this poem is resembling negative aspect, negativity, that means depression kind of thing, or marginalized kinds of issue. That's why also you can see from the poet, he was from, or he is from Black community, American Black community. And you might have heard, still American Black or Black all over the world, they are not considered like white people. That's why the issue he has raised here can be, right, can be his own feeling or feeling of his community. So let's see, before we start this poem, the background. Life is Fine is a playful ditty about a man who is clearly suffering and contemplating suicide, but is able to see the beauty in life and seemingly does 180 turns on his stance on his life. And it is for the reason that poem is called Life is Fine, with fine being operative word. The narrator doesn't believe that life is wondrous. They have been life's darker side and decided that they want to leave, or he wants to leave. That is the main thing. Initially in the poem, it means the poet, the speaker, person in the poem is pessimistic, nirasabadi, and he thinks of committing suicide. And here 180 turns means finally He changed his mindset and did not do so. That is the background. So it's a free verse. It has not quite fixed pattern, uh, and there is a consistent patterns with two quatrains uh, in the single line, being by single line. It means four lines. It means there are 8 lines. After 8 lines, you can find single line. That means quatrain means 4 lines, and 2 quatrains means 8 lines. After 8 lines, you can find a single line. This is the form over here. And regarding tone, it's forceful and bitter, but yet critical. Forceful. See, most of the youngster, when they fall in love, they forget everything. They see everything beautiful. And when the breakdown occurs, they would think everything dark, and as if they lost everything. So it is forceful. It has forceful tone and bitter experience as well. But it is showing something critical. But lastly, become positive, and he realizes that life is fine. Simply, a poem is a journey from pessimism to optimism. निराशावादबाट आशावादतर्फ, from pessimism to optimism. This is a journey of the poet from these two sentiments, you can say. So I talk about form and tone also is very similar to our poetic device. So look at here, life fine as wine is a simile, and it evokes speaker's transformation from a suicidal weakling who appears in the operating in the of the poem to such an optimistic man at the end. So fine, what does fine mean here? At the end of the poem, the poet says, like wine. It's good, it means. And another device is assonance, simile first, and assonance is the next step. Second point, you can see, life is fine, fine as wine, life is fine. So continued use of long E sound, look at here, repeating. Life is fine, fine as wine. There's a repetition of same sound E, E, long E, like in music, and it has positive impact, or the poet wants to give positive impact, that means. And next one is colloquial English, gonna, wanna kind of thing. Spoken English, that means it has been used here. And uses also aims to make his piece of work more engaging the audience. Using these gonna, wanna are black variety generally, colloquial variety generally. So he wants to show his own impact, or he wants to show impact of his community in the poem. So we have talked about quatrain, 4-line poem, four-line poem, and rhyming pattern is A, B, and C, B. Generally, you don't know about this, and so I'm going to skip this. If you have some idea about rhyming pattern, it would be useful. So let me skip this. Again, I'm going back to theme. I have said you that it is a journey of the poet from pessimism to optimism. So simply, it refers to the delusion that people often have about death. And people think that death is ultimate solution, which is not correct. That is the thing. So it also says that we need to be optimistic. We need to be hopeful. We need to think positively. If we think positively, we will be happy, otherwise not. So there are two words I would like to recall for you. One is vicissitude. Vicissitude, that is dukha sukha, what we call, right? Problems, obstacle in our life, and it is normal. Problem in our life, problems in our life is or are normal. It's common. There will be ups and downs. There will be day and night. That is one aspect of this poem. And next one is perseverance. Perseverance means the term I'm saying, perseverance. Think about this. It means we have to overcome, we have to tolerate, we have to bear the problem and need to go ahead. That means from pessimism to optimism. Let's talk about some words used in this poem. Holler, shout loudly. Insane people, right? Or partially insane people, or peoples are in depression, right? They shout, they cry. It is related to this. A bin is there, a bin, A-B-E-N, that is have been in poem, short form, poetic language. Elevator means lift of the house, tall building. Colloquial language, living. It is living, and living means alive here. Dogged, showing determination, and you can compare this dogged with foolishness also, right? And gonna, you know, that's very common. And some words are unusually used, right? For example, but. After some expression, the poet says but. It means it reveals the speaker's effort to explain why his determination fails at the death approaches him. Right? And again, this but in our expression, in our speaking, has meaning. It means we to show some contrary opinions, idea expression, we use but. So it has been used there. Cold and high in written in capital. There are two words. Because of these two things, he changed his mindset. One is cold, and to capitalize these two words has a reason. That is, that because of this thing, he did not do that. So he wanted to highlight saying cold and high in capital letter. Let me talk about the poem. Life is fine. I went down to the river. It means, what did the poet do to commit suicide, right? How do people commit suicide? One is jumping into the water, or jumping from tall building, hanging on the ceiling, taking poison, or many more other, or using dragger, etc. So to commit suicide, initially the poet, I went to the river, I sat down on the bank, I tried to think but could not, so I jumped in and sank. Right? To commit suicide, he went to the river, he sat on the bank, and there was nothing in his mind. He was depressed. That means only solution at the time was committing suicide. So jumped. He jumped into the river and sank also. But what happened then? I came up at once and hollered, right? He dived into the water, but he came up and he made a loud cry, huge cry. He gave a L, that means Y-E-L-L-L, hollered. I came up twice and cried. Again he came up and he cried. If that water hadn't have been so cold, it means if that water hadn't have been so cold, he might have sunk and died, but he wasn't killed. He wasn't died there. He did not die there. Why? But look at here. But I said the meaning of but earlier. Contrary opinion. It was cold in that water. It was cold because of that coldness of water. He could not commit suicide. He jumped into the water. He dived into the water, and he came out. It doesn't mean that because of cold nature of water. It means maybe his mindset also was changed. His body was also somehow feeling or showing strange or peculiar nature. It means he changed his mindset at that time and he came out. So again, he made next attempt. I took the elevator, lift, 16th floor above the ground. It means he went on the top of 16th floor house for elevator. I thought about my baby. Baby means your girlfriend or boyfriend, right? You can talk about this, think about this. I thought about my baby and thought I would jump down. Right? Again, he recalls his girlfriend here because writer is male, so I can say so. I would jump down, thinking his wife, yeah, especially beloved, not wife at all, girlfriend. He thought of committing suicide, thought of jumping from top of the 16th floor house. I stood there and again I hollered, I cried loudly. That means I stood there and I cried. If it had not a wind so high, I might have jumped and died. Again, the problem was height of the house. So he could not commit suicide. He could not jump out of the house. But it was high up. Look at here, high, capital H. You could see capital C in cold and here capital H. The poet wants to underline this, highlight this. It was high up there. It was high. It was very high. That's why he could not jump out of it. See, the poet has made 2 attempts to commit suicide, but he could not. In the first case, the water was very cold. In the second case, the building was very high. Because of this, he totally changed his mindset. See the turning point in the next stanza, 5th stanza. So since I'm still here living, surviving, I guess I will live on. It means he stopped that promise of his intention of committing suicide. So he says, I'm still living. I guess I will live on. I want to live. I will live. That means I could have died for love, right? He had thought of dying, of killing himself. But for living, I was born. But he thought that he was born to live, not to die himself, not to finish himself. That's why we are here. That means to live. We have to face challenges, that vicissitudes, and we need to have perseverance, commitment for life, overcoming problem. That means, so he says, I could have died for love. Love is important. We need our beloved. There's no question. But for that, for the sake of love, right, is foolishness to commit suicide, to finish ourselves, the poet says. See the next stanza, though you may hear me holler and you may see me cry, I'll be ducked, sweet baby, if you're gonna see me die. Yes. To overcome problem, when we have to face challenges, difficulties, hardship, what happens? We have to cry. We have to holler and cry. You have to be a lots of pain and sorrow for that. But he says, I'll be ducked, my sweet baby, if you're gonna see me die. Your dog means foolish. There is determination in the meaning. It says, I'll be ducked, sweet baby, if you're gonna see me die. Right? It would be my foolishness to commit suicide for you. For you means for my love, he says. And finally he says that life is fine. It's good. Life is beautiful. We are born not to die ourselves, not to be killed by ourselves, not to commit suicide by ourselves. We have to live longer. Life is fine. Fine as wine, and life is fine. Look at here. Life is compared with wine, right? People generally, in my opinion, drink wine for enjoyment, for entertainment. So we have to enjoy our life. It means it doesn't mean we have to drink wine. It means we have to enjoy our life as we like. There's love and hatred. There are two sides of our life, like two sides of a coin. So life is beautiful, life is fine. Let's see summary. I have already said you everything. So here is also, you can't find new thing. You can screenshot and you can talk about this. I will talk few things, only 3 points over here, and analysis part you have to see yourself. See here, the speaker goes to the river and sit down by the bank to think. He can't concentrate, so he jumps into the water and sinks. He surfaces, he comes on the surface, that means, and cries out twice. If the water hadn't been so frigid, he would have died, he says, but it was cold in that water. It was cold. That was his first attempt. And second, he takes the elevator to the 6th floor of his building, where he thinks about his baby and consider jumping, right? Because of hatred of his beloved, he thought of jumping. He stands up there and yells, shouts, hollers, that means. And if it hadn't been so high, he might have leaped off, jumped off, that means jumped and died. But it was high. See the capital up there, it was high, he says. So because of height of that house, he rejected jumping off the ceiling, that 16th floor of that house. So he comments that he's still living. He might as well live on. He might have died for love, but he was born to live. He says to his baby that he would dug if she were to see him die. And he concludes, life is fine, life is fine, life is fine. So he became positive at the end. He thought he was not born to die himself. He was not born for that. He thinks he should survive, he should live, and he should face the challenges that comes in his life. That is his conclusion. It says that it is not good to commit suicide for love, for the sake of fake love, it says. So you can screenshot, you can pause and read analysis part. That is fine. Analysis, stanza 1 and 2. I'll pause for a while so that you can pause my video and see the next part, 3 and 4. It also contains the thing, whatever I said. And see the last one, the stanza 5 and the last refrain part. Refrain part means repeating part. this poem. You can see a man in the picture, a man climbing the cliff rock. Again, let me talk about conclusion. I think you have yourself made conclusion, but let me read whatever I have written for you. In this poem, he just revisit a common theme in his work, perseverance. See the word I've written here, perseverance. He understand the plight of his people and craft a vulnerable character here who often consider giving up on life, but can never quit follow through, meaning that he still has something to live for. By coming so close to death, the speaker in Life is Fine finds a renewed desire to live. He has already what? Decided to be killed by himself. But he got a renewed desire, means he wanted to live because of the word you can see here, perseverance. Perseverance, remember this, perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. This is what? Ability to overcome problem and find hope for life. It's a very important term of this poem. And next term I have said you that vicissitude, right? Maybe that should be here. I think somewhere you can find somewhere here, right? You search in this explanation. It is also mentioned there. Two terms I have underlined earlier. Vicissitude, right? That is what? The amalgamation of happiness and sadness, both. And this perseverance is the ability to tolerate painful situation and overcome that. So you can see the picture, life is beautiful. And simply in a sentence, what I would like to say is that love is a thing, especially it is done when we are in teenage. We may not have enough ability to judge what is good and what is bad. Because of this, we can be sad, we can be depressed, or we may think of committing suicide, but that is not the solution. We can solve that problem. We have to overcome that, we have to tolerate that, and we have to go ahead. Thinking that that was a chapter in our life. Okay, thank you very much for listening me. If you have any question, anything like that, you can ask me now, please.